Okay, now that we're back in GBoss, let's go back to the Build Objects screen, and we're going to create a couple new objects here. The next one will be a bubble object, and this is the object that's going to be sort of bouncing around the screen, so we'll call it the bubble object. Select the graphic for it. And now we just need to add a few more tasks and states. So let's click on the new button for a new state, and we'll use the create state for this one again. And when this bubble is created, we want it to start moving. And it's going to move on its own, it's not going to follow the mouse. So let's scroll down and find the start moving task. We'll add that in. And we need to give it a direction and a speed. So for the direction, we'll have it move down and to the right. So it should be about a 30-degree angle. Doesn't have to be exact. And for speed, we can go ahead and set that to 8. Alright, so once this bubble is created, it should start moving in a direction that's down and to the right. So we can go ahead and click done there. Now we also need to keep this bubble inside the game level. By default, if it's moving and it reaches the edge of the screen, it'll just keep moving so we can't see it anymore. So what we're going to do is create a wall around the edges of our game. So we'll add a new object and we'll call this one the wall object. And we'll use the brick graphic for that one. Alright, now this one is just going to sort of sit there. We'll let the bubble do all the work, so we don't need any states or tasks for the wall object. So we can click done and go back, and we're going to go back on the bubble object and make some changes. So this time we're going to select it and then click the edit object button. And we're going to tell it what to do when it runs into the wall. So we need to add a new state. So we'll click on the new button under states and use the collision state this time. So that's what you want to use if you want to have an object do something when it collides or runs into another object. Now we need to tell our state here which object it needs to collide with. So over in the options we can click under the value and we'll just choose the wall object there. And when it collides with the wall, we just want the bubble to bounce. So we're going to add a new task to the collision state, and we're going to scroll up and find the task that's just called bounce. Alright, so that should give us a way to keep this bubble inside the room. And of course we also want the bubble to bounce off of the seahorse. So we're going to give it one more collision state. This time we're going to tell it that the colliding object is the seahorse object. And just like before, we're going to tell it to bounce. Alright, that should be enough for the bubble object for now, so let's click done, and we'll go back to the assemble game screen, and we actually have to add in that wall that we're creating. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag out 3 of our wall objects here, one for the bottom, one for the right, and one for the top, and we can actually scale these out so that they reach the entire length of our game here. So to do that, just click on the object, and then you'll see these little arrows pop up. We want to click on one of these corner arrows here and just click and drag that until it's the right size for our game. And we can just drag that up a little bit. And we'll do the same for the other 2. So we'll have 3 walls here, one for the top, one for the bottom, and one for the right side. Okay, so we've got our border set up. And now we just need to add the bubble object back into the game. So we'll just drag and drop that out, same way we did with the seahorse on the wall. And we can go ahead and test this out now. And it's also good at time to probably save our game. To save, we just need to give the game a name. So we'll click up in the top right here. We'll call this one our Breakout game. And then we'll click the Save Game button. It'll tell you that it's finished saving, so click OK. And from there we can go ahead and test it again. So click on the Test Game tab and click the Generate Game button one more time. Alright, so you can see now we have our seahorse and our bubble, and when the bubble hits either the wall or the seahorse, it's going to bounce. Alright, so we're back in GBoss, and we're going to go back to the Build Object screen again, and this time we're going to add a shell object. So we'll click on New Object, give it a name, Shell Object, and select the graphic for it. And sort of like the wall, the shell's just going to sit there and we're going to let the bubble do the work. So we can click done, and we'll go back and edit the bubble object. And we need to tell the bubble what to do when it collides with the shell. So we'll add another collision state. and we'll tell it to collide with the shell object. And when it does, we want it to do a couple things this time. So let's add a few tasks in here. We want it to bounce again, so we'll add the bounce task. And we want it to do a few more things this time. We'll click on the destroy task, because we want it to destroy the shell. Now for destroy, we have some options here. We can either tell it to destroy the object that we're currently editing, or we can tell it to destroy the object it's colliding with. And this time we want it to destroy the object it's colliding with, or the shell. So we're going to change it from this to other. Click apply. Alright, so that'll destroy the shell. And we also want to add some points to the score when the player destroys one of the shells. So we'll add a new task. We'll find the set score task here. And we'll give it a value of 10 points. And we want to leave relative set to true for this. And we'll just add in one more task here. We'll add a little bit of sound to our game. So we're going to use the play sound task. And we'll just go ahead and add that one sound effect we created before, the breaking sound effect. Alright, so we've got 4 tasks here. Whenever our bubble collides with the shell, it's going to bounce, it'll destroy the shell, it'll add 10 points to the score, and play a sound effect. Alright, so that's all the interaction we need with the shell. So we can click done, and we can go back to the assemble game screen, and we just need to add those shells in here. So I'm going to drag one shell out, and I'll show you a little trick here if you want to line up a whole bunch of these objects. If you hold down the shift button and then click and drag on an object that's already on the screen, you'll see it'll place a whole bunch of those little boxes there, and when you let go of the mouse button, it'll replace them with whatever object you're adding. So you can do that one more time for another row of shells. So hold down the shift key on your keyboard, then click with your mouse and drag up, and we now have another row of shells. Alright, so let's save this and test it out. Click on the Save Game button, and then click the Test Game tab and Generate Game one more time. So as you can see, this bubble is now going to break the shells when it collides with them, and it'll also add points to the score, and if you have your speakers turned on, you should hear the sound effect as well. So congratulations, you've just created your first Breakout game using GBoss.